guitar. I haven't been playing it.
What?
I haven't been playing my guitar, Stuart.
Oh, okay.
I have a little bit of a voice, not too much, but I'll try it.
Okay, it would be great.
Yeah, that sure looks like it was meant for you.
Thank you.
So we can start, right, Rabbi?
Good morning, everybody. September 9th, 2010, Rabbi passed, as we all know. And today is September 9th, 2021. So we're here to remember Rabbi Gelberman, to have a service, to recall his beauty, his joy, his love. I will tell you that Rabbi and I would talk every day for about 20 years, and we would meet every Friday. And I know he was with Judy in the same way every day for even longer than I was with him. And he would tell me stories all the time. And I'd like to just tell some of those stories today as we go through our little memorial service in his honor and in his memory. He told me that he was a Freudian psychologist. He was a PhD psychologist from Columbia University. And Sigmund Freud taught that what happens in the first 5 years of our lives determines the rest of our lives. And he thought that he could expand on that, which he always did. He took ideas that came to him and then made them even better. And he said he believed that what happened in the first 5 minutes of any day of our lives would determine how we felt the rest of that day. So he recalled a story that he learned as a little boy, very, very young, a Hasidic story. This was taught to all Hasidic children. I wasn't Hasidic, but somehow or another I learned it because my grandmother was very frum, my great-grandmother from Poland, and she taught it actually to the family and they passed it to me. And the story is that every night as we go to sleep, the soul leaves the body and it goes to heaven for a visit to a night court that's held by the angels. And the angels say to the soul, so soul, how are you today? Did you love? Did you have joy? Did you do good deeds? Were you kind? And Rabbi taught that some souls get sent back and some souls don't. And we really can't tell the difference when we look at the physical body until the eyes open and the spark of the neshama, the soul, once again presents itself. So he was taught a blessing. First thing he said every single morning, his eyes would open and he would say, Modeh ani lefanecha, shechazata bi nishmati bechem laraba emunatecha, Selah. He'd actually sing it. Judy, do you remember the melody? Modeh ani?
Yes, I remember it very well. We used to sing it every day when I picked him up from his home, and he started, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech Chai v'kayom shezata nishmati v'chemla rabba emunatecha Selah. Hallelujah, Johnny. Hallelujah. 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 Would you like me to continue?
Well, continue with the Shema because that's how we would end it.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yisrael
Adonai
Elohim, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Listen, O Israel, listen, O humankind, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, the Lord is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Machoso, the Olam Va'ed.
Blessed be the name of the Lord forever and ever. That's how he would begin every single day. And what it means is, the Modeh ani lefanecha shechazata binishmati b'chemla rabba amunata chasela. Thank you, God, for restoring my soul to my body and giving me another day of life. He said that if you begin every day with God and with gratitude, how bad can a day be? It has to be a good day. And that's how we would start every day. And that's what he taught each of us, to begin our day with gratitude and with God. And then what he would do, he would go back into the bathroom. When he woke up, he'd go into the bathroom, he'd wash, he'd do various things that he had to do. He'd look in the mirror initially, he'd say, not bad. And then he would put his clothes on. As you know, Rabbi was a very spiffy dresser. Yeah. From Hungary, he was always dressed to the nines. It was very important to him to look good. And he'd go back to his mirror in the bathroom after he was dressed, and he would look in the mirror and he would say to himself, not bad. And he would change the whole attitude of the day. And then he would go to the window. And Judy, you saw this every day when you were with him. He'd look out the window and he'd say, Manishma, Ribono Shel Olam, Boker Tov. God in heaven, good morning. What's new? Street Hebrew, Manishma. And he would wait for the answer. And the answer always came every day. God answered, Hakol Beseder. All is in divine order. And then he would start his day. He was quite extraordinary. He was always reading. He was always studying. He was always thinking. He was always in touch with God. He truly loved God. I want to go fast forward for a moment to a book that he wrote called Spiritual Truths. He wrote it with Dorothy Kobach. And it's very interesting. He used to say to me, I'm very, very tall. And Rabbi, as you know, was, as he said, height challenged. And he would say to me that when the angels came to him when he was in utero, the angels asked him, do you want to be tall or great? And he said he wanted to be great. And indeed he was. And then he said to me, when the angels came to me and asked me when I was in utero, do I want to be tall or great? I was very humble and I didn't answer. And they asked me again, tall or great? And I didn't answer again. And he said, that's why I got both, tall and great. Well, I want to say something about Rabbi. As we all know, Rabbi was the Rabbi of joy. The most important part of Rabbi's life was to live life joyfully. He wrote in this wonderful book, Spiritual Truths. Today, whatever may annoy, the word for me is joy, just simple joy. And that's how he saw life, no matter what happened. He saw joy. I'll talk a little bit in a minute about his life, which is extraordinary. What's interesting is he passed on September 9th. And the 9th day in his book is about love. Love with love. Love is a feeling which is unique because the receiver and the giver are bound together in the highest fulfillment. When we give love, we are reenacting the primordial act of creation. For only by love could God fashion humankind. When someone takes the love we offer, it is the greatest act of giving because it gives to the lover his reason for living. But love has vulnerability. Love needs receptivity, even as a seed needs soil and cannot flourish if tossed in a tin can. To love wisely, we must believe in love and nurture love. To love wisely, we must be in love with love. To be wisely, we must love with love. And Hekato said, if you would be loved, love. And I kind of have this impression that the angels came back to Rabbi and asked him a second question. Do you want to be the rabbi of love or the rabbi of joy? And I think this time he was very humble and he didn't answer. And they asked again, do you want to be the rabbi of love or the rabbi of joy? And again, he didn't answer. And the angels made him indeed the rabbi of love and the rabbi of joy. And that's what he is to each of us. And he will always be to each of us. Some years ago, he'd go back and forth to Florida. He'd spend some time in the winter in Florida. And I would miss him terribly, as would Judy, and many of us, especially when he was away. And one week I decided, we were together every Friday. And when he was away, I would go into the Four Seasons. I'd set up my little, my chumash and the books and put on my kippah. And then I would call him on the telephone and we would study together. And he would say something to me that I never forgot. He would say, if we're together when we're together, we will be together when we're apart. Mm-hmm. If we're apart when we're together, we will always be apart. Think about it. Think about relationships that we have where sometimes we're not together when we're together. And he believed very strongly in devoting 100% of himself to relationships. In a little while, I think we'll each have an opportunity to speak about Rabbi and memories that we had and have. In any event, this particular week, I was really missing him. And I decided to fly to Florida to study. I told him that I had a business meeting. I actually flew down in the morning. I met him at the apartment. We went to his favorite Chinese restaurant down there. And we studied together for about 3 hours. Then we came back to the apartment. He said, let's go for a swim. He actually told me to bring my bathing suit. And we went into the pool in his community. And I watched him do his exercises in the pool. His Kabbalah in motion, essentially. He would move his legs 10 times. He would move his arms 10 times. He would move his eyes back and forth to keep his eyes young and fresh. It was incredible to watch, and I followed him, and I do it to this day. It was really amazing. He was not a young man at that point. I would say he was probably 90 when I went down that week. Yet he did these exercises every day. And as we parted, he said, I love you, and I said, I love you, and I flew back to New York. And while I was flying back, I wrote some of the things that he talked about that day. It was the first time that he ever talked to me about his experience during the Holocaust. As you know, many of you know, he never talked about that, never used those words at all. He didn't talk about Hitler, he didn't talk about the Holocaust, only one time a year. And that's why I'm wearing this talit today. This is the talit that he wore during our memorial service on Yom Kippur every year. Judy had it. It was a gift to her from Rabbi, and she was kind enough to gift it to me with the most beautiful note I think I've ever received, a note of love and joy. Judy, I really appreciate this very, very much. And I'm wearing it today in his memory. Anyway, he told me stories when he first came here and how he had a job offer and the job offer didn't come through and they sent him out and he had to come back, and he was writing letters to his family, and then the letters stopped and it was too late to bring them here. And how he went into darkness, and he was very, very sad and very angry for a while. And he said one day Rabbi Hillel came to him and said, if I am not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And he got up from his grieving, and it was at that very moment that he chose a life of joy and a life of love. He said that as long as he was alive, they were alive. They lived through him. He taught us that those who are truly alive never die. They're always here through us. I wrote a letter to him on the way back from Florida on the plane. And in that letter, I promised him that his teachings and his love and his joy would be continued through me and through others. And many of us are here today at this ceremony and this call to continue his work, the work of love and joy, the work of interfaith, the work of celebrating humankind. It doesn't matter how we find God. It doesn't even matter if we look. Rabbi said we're all equal. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. As Judy just sang so beautifully, listen, O Israel, listen, O humankind, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. If there is one God, he taught us, and we are all the children of that one God. We have the same mother and father. What does that make us to one another? It makes us brothers and sisters and family. And his greatest yearning was that we behave as family. We get angry with each other from time to time, but we always make up and we always have love. Love is always restored. It's a constant in families. And he yearned for that greatly. And he worked a lifetime for that. And we here today are committed to continuing his work, to accepting each human being as a beautiful child of God, to turn on our own light every day, and to turn on the light or notice the light in every human being we encounter, even our enemies, even those we really dislike, even those who have hurt us. We notice their life and we accept them as is. He told me a story once, and I'm sure many of you have heard this story, that people used to knock on his door all the time on the 19th floor in Central Park West. And they would have books and they would want to study with them. And he would open the door and he would ask them one question: do you love me? And if they answered, we love you as long as you do it our way, he would close the door and send them away. If they answered, yes, I love you, he would invite them in and they would study and they would learn from each other. It was incredible how open and receiving he was. He received love better than anybody I've ever met, totally unconditionally. I don't think there was a word of judgment that I ever experienced in my 20-year relationship with Rabbi, and Judy would say the same, Susanna would say the same, each of us on this call would say the same. He made us feel welcome, he made us feel important, and he made us feel like when we were together, we were the only person in the world, just us individually and him. It was truly incredible. So what I'd like to do now is just turn it over to each of us. We'll have a little singing, we'll have a little service, which Guruji would like us to do. But Guruji, if you could put us all up, please, and maybe unmute us. I would like to invite us each to say a few words about our experience of Rabbi Gelberman and perhaps a story, something that you experienced with him that made you the person that you are today. And I'd like to start.
The story I was inspired to write the thing about the Shema being a mantra.
Oh. Okay, who's speaking?
No, continue, please continue, Rabbi.
Right, okay, so Guruji, why don't you start?
For me, I heard about Rabbi from India before coming to America. Through a yoga magazine from Shivananda organization, I was a teacher trainer at the headquarters in Kerala. Then when I came to New York, the first Rabbi I met, that was Rabbi Joseph Gelberman. We became friends and we used to come for the interfaith prayer service before the UN General Assembly starts. That was in September. That's why I am pushing to have this event in September. And Rabbi passed, somehow he passed on the same day. So this is the most busiest season for all the NGOs at the UN, but we don't want to miss Rabbi. Rabbi was the #1 interfaith leader, brought interfaith teachings for the world. No one else. We can say, oh, somebody came from India, brought the Gita teachings with Swami Vivekananda. That is fine. These are the stories. But those who live in interfaith, that's the thing I consider. Because I born in interfaith family, it is very hard to bring it. Especially as a Holocaust survivor, that's a long way to adjust their mental pattern. That's what I'll say. They go through very hard time, but still they have to love people. That's not easy. Rabbi showed that beautiful teaching through his own life. That's what I like it. And we had so many wonderful interfaith services, yoga festivals, interfaith festivals. Rabbi was one of the main guests in our event, and he is the first rabbi became our advisor in the World Yoga community and the International Gurukula community. After Rabbi passed away, our beloved Rabbi Shur Paris is our next person, and I want to announce today, and he is going to be part of the World Yoga community advisory board, and he will be representing our organization to the United Nations as an NGO representative. That's I want to announce today.
Thank you,
So-
Guruji.
So I'll hand over to our Judima. Judima also one of the person I met with the Rabbi at the Shivananda Center. Just after Rabbi I met. And Judima here. Judima, please continue.
It's a great honor to be here among all the devotees. I met Rabbi in 1976, and I met him because Baba Muktananda wanted me to meet him. I had to go back to my Jewishness. Having been a Holocaust survivor myself, I needed to get back to my roots, just to honor my mother and father who were murdered in Auschwitz. He had a service in Central Park, and he said all the things that I needed to hear. And our Siddha Yoga group did a chant, and he sat there next to me. And after the chant was over, he said, "I like your voice." And I said, "Thank you very much. I also sing in Hebrew and Yiddish, etc., etc." So he said, "Good, let's get together. Come to my house, and we'll do it such and such a time, and we'll compare our music." So he had me there, and I played the guitar and I sang, and then he sang and I played the guitar for him. It was a wonderful meeting, and ever since then he used to call me up. Why don't you meet me at this and this church on 60th Street? And I got to meet Swami Satchidananda. As a result, we became friends also. Rabbi just taught me what I needed to know, that God is with all of us. And this is, it couldn't have been told to me by anyone else. You know, he just had that knowledge, and he gave me that experience. I miss him very much. Still, I think he passed on September 9th of 2010.
2010, right?
Yes. And I have to say, Stuart, thank you so much for reminding me of all the things that Rabbi taught you, because it should be repeated over and over again. So you're a great carrier of Rabbi's information, and I thank you so much for being there. That shawl looks great on you.
Thank you, Judy. I have to say, Judy, over these many years that we've known each other, you're a great carrier of Rabbi's spirit and Rabbi's love and joy. You're an extraordinary person. You were a wonderful friend to him and to each of us, and it wouldn't have been his life would not have been the same without you. I have to tell you that. You were very, very, very important to him. Tell a story about when he said you had to become an interfaith minister.
He wanted me to become a rabbi,
Right.
actually, but I was ordained by him as an interfaith minister, and because of him, I was able to perform a lot of weddings and baby namings, and it was quite wonderful. I really cherish all the memories. You know, yeah, I didn't know I was going to be speaking, but I'm just, you know, going on and speaking, and I don't want to take up the time of, you know, all of you who want to speak.
You're beautiful. Thank you, Judy. We love you very, very, very much.
And very
Judy,
same
when
to
were,
you.
when were you ordained, Judy?
2000, year 2000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was ordained in either 85 or 86. And
Wow.
my dear friend, Tom Downs, who some of you may have known,
Yes.
called me
yes.
up on the phone and said to me, Harvey, I've got something right up your alley. It turned out it was more than up my alley. It was only about a block and a half away from me. I lived only a block and a half away from Rabbi Gelberman. And I also sang, and I had a song, in fact, I sent on chat, and you did it last time, Guruji. If you could do it again, I'd love you to, at some point, play the song that I recorded, and we did a while back. Anyway, I love synchronicities, and synchronicities was something that the rabbi was always talking about. And the synchronicity of this today is just mind-boggling for me, because my wife died yesterday.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
And in her passing, it freed me to be here today, because I would not have been here today. I would have been taking care of her today. And so this is such a mitzvah that I've been given this freedom from my wife and God to be here today, to be here on the day that the rabbi died. So he died one day after my wife died for me. And so this is really an amazing, people would say coincidence. I call it synchronicity. And bringing together John Mundy and Father Spoonhour to talk with us in that little place on, was it 22nd Street on the corner of Broadway? Just brings back such remarkable memories of him and the wonderful things he said. And I always tell this story when I get a chance. I don't know if you remember the story about, he used to tell about the man on the train, and the man comes on and sits across from him, and he opens up his sandwich and starts eating it, and the other man says, "Oh, I'm so hungry." And the man is eating his sandwich, and he keeps on saying, "Oh, I'm so hungry." And finally the man gives him, he says, "Shut up already, take a bite." And the man takes a bite, and he says, "Oh, I was so hungry." Oh, I was so hungry. And we used to laugh when he would tell that story, because it just showed how people are so attached to their misery that even when it's resolved for them, they still then they remember how miserable it was instead of the misery that they have now. Anyway, he loved this song that I used to sing for him. It came to me in a dream in 1979. And my wife, when I told her that I was having it, said, I said to her, I just wrote a song. And she said, "Who do you think you are, George Gershwin?" I said, she turned around and went back to sleep. So I had to sing it for somebody. So I sang it to a friend, and that set it in my mind. And so over the years, I've kind of embellished on it. And now last year, just before the shutdown, I actually recorded it with someone to do it professionally. And now I have it available. Guruji, would you be able to play it again? Like you did last time?
Which one?
Yeah, it's on the chat. It's the link that I
Okay.
sent you. Listen to Wake Up. Now, it was called at that time, I was calling it The First Day. And he said, no. He said, "You should call it Wake Up." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because the Buddha, when he had his awakening, when he came into town and everybody said, 'You look different, you look straight.'" I'll tell you later.
And know that you've come to the first day of the rest of your life. Now the past's already happened, there's nothing you can do to change it. And the future's yet to happen, so you might as well arrange it. All you need is a positive outlook, and your miracle's already done. So give up all your negative thinking and know you've already won. Grow up and open your mind, forget your worries, forget your strife. Wake up and know that you've come to the first day of the rest of your life. Now the life is yours completely, you can squander it or use it. What you want is for the asking, see what happens when you choose it. And there's nothing in this world that can stop you. There was never anything anyway. So go out there and keep your light shining, and you'll always have a sunny day. Clean up and open your heart, forget your worries, forget your strife. Wake up and know that you've come to the first day of the rest of your life. Now this world of ours is hurting. We need more love and understanding. And dear sisters and dear brothers, we have to follow God's commanding. Peace within is our ultimate mission. We must have it without much delay. With respect and care for all creation, harmony will pave the way. Show up and open your soul, forget your worries, forget your strife. Wake up and know that you've come to the first day of the rest of your life. Of the rest of your life, of the rest of your life.
Thank you, Guruji. Yeah. So he said that the Buddha came into town, and they said, well, who are you? And he said, I am awake. And that's why he said, call it wake up from now on. And that's what I did. I took every bit of advice Rabbi Gelberman gave me, I took into my heart and my soul. And one of the last things I just want to say is to commemorate Rabbi Gelberman, I created, helped co-create the Association of Interfaith Ministers, AIM, into a real organization, because at the time when we discovered it, it was really just in somebody's apartment and wasn't getting out into the world. And now, of course, we have World Awake, which I was the first co-chairperson for. So this is my commemoration of Rabbi Gelberman and what he did for me and for all of us. Thank you.
Beautiful, Rabbi. I want to tell a fast story. That was beautiful. Talk about changing people's lives. One day I would pick Rabbi up on Friday morning, and we would walk down to his favorite restaurant, which was called the Four Seasons, which was he lived on 96th Street by the park, and we walked to Columbus Avenue to 97th Street to a diner, which he called the Four Seasons, and we'd sit for hours and hours and study. One day we were walking, I was holding an umbrella for him, it was raining a little bit, and as we turned the corner to Columbus Avenue, there was a homeless person who stopped me and asked, could we help? So I gave Rabbi the umbrella, I made him comfortable in one of the buildings in the alcove, and I took this person into a little, like a 7-Eleven, right on the corner. And I said, what would you like? And he said, I would like a bacon and egg sandwich. I said, okay. And I ordered, would you like it on a roll or so on? And I ordered a bacon and egg sandwich. I said, would you like a cup of coffee? He said, no, I'd like a cup of tea. So I ordered the whole thing. I said, God bless you. I paid for it. And I walked out and I wished him a pleasant day and God's blessings. When I came out, Rabbi greeted me. We went to the Four Seasons. We were sitting, and suddenly he said to me, "What was that all about? That you did that, and what happened?" I said, "It was a homeless person who was hungry and asked for a meal. So I took him in and I bought him a meal." And he said, "How much was it?" He says, I told him it was $3. He said, "That's a great mitzvah. That's a great thing that you did. Can I have half?" And he gave me $1.50. He bought half the mitzvah. He loved the story so much that he insisted that I tell it at Yom Kippur the following year. And Judy, you may remember this. And I told the story. I gave a little sermon. And at the end of the sermon, I told the story about the mitzvah, the $1.50 mitzvah. And we had a young man in our synagogue named Alexander, who was bright and joyful and just filled with just the light was so bright in him. He was born with only one leg and various other things that challenged him, but he felt no challenge. He was completely alive, totally light. And he comes running up on his crutches. Rabbi Stewart, stop. And he said, "I want some of the mitzvah too." So he gave me $1, he gave Rabbi $1, and the three of us each owned $1 of the $3 mitzvah. And that was Rabbi Gelberman. That was him. And the smallest thing, he found amazing wisdom, teaching, joy. I'm going to tell another story, and I hope this imprints each of us. This is one of the most incredible things that I've experienced in my life. I grew up in the same box, that not as tight a box, but I grew up in the box of Judaism. I didn't know anything else when I was growing up. And of course, Rabbi taught me that there's much more to life than Judaism. It's humanness. It's what he believed in, never instead of, always in addition to. And even I had business in Denver, Colorado, a 3-day meeting that I had to go to. I was the meeting. And I met from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And Rabbi we'd talk every morning. We'd read spiritual truths, and then we would study for a bit in the morning. And of course, every time he read a page in spiritual truths, he would say, "How about that?" Right, Judy? How about that? Mm-hmm. And the first day he called me and he left me a message because I was in this meeting. And he said, "Stuart, this is Rabbi calling. Actually, Joseph calling. I wanted to tell you that I love you." And he read me the page on spiritual truths. The second day he called and he said, "Stuart, I'm really worried about you. You always call me. I'm worried about you. Please call me," and didn't read me the page. And the third day, I still wasn't able to call. He called and he says, "Stuart, yet again, you are my teacher. You have taught me that if you really love somebody and you call them and they don't call you back, call them again." Mm-hmm. Think about that. And of course, I left the meeting and I called immediately. But it was, that's the kind of person that he was. Susanna, would you share some thoughts with us? Some memories?
Oh, my goodness. I met Rabbi 28 years ago. I was in corporate executive, but I was searching spiritually. And I had gone to various lives, began with Hinduism and Buddhism, like so many of us. And I began teaching meditation. It happened organically. Colleagues would say, "You're different. What are you doing? Teach me." And then one person told another person. I would teach these meditation groups. And people in them were followers of Judy Gurumai, and they were becoming interfaith ministers. And everybody talked about this rabbi. And everyone said, "You should become an interfaith minister." I'm like, no. And I started painting again. And I had this mystical experience of the 4 angels of the Kabbalah. And what's amazing about that is I didn't even know they were the 4 angels of the Kabbalah. In other words, I had the mystical experience, and then the knowledge came later. And I painted them and I showed them at the Open Center, and another artist in Soho hands me a card and it says interfaith minister on it. I said, "What is this? Everybody's an interfaith minister." And she said, "Yeah." She came to my studio. She goes, "You should do this." I said, "Why would I want to do this?" And then one of my students said, "Oh, go meet the rabbi. He's fantastic. You don't have to do it. Just go meet him." So I met him on 96th in Central Park West in his apartment. And he said, "You meditate? Let's meditate together." And we meditated for 20 minutes. And that calmed me down. And he said, "Look, Susanna, because I said to him, why would I want to do this? I don't want to do this. I don't have time. And he said, you don't need to know why. If it feels right, join. If it doesn't, don't. The why will be revealed to you. And that was very Rabbi, like perspicacious, perceptive, to the point. He just knew what to say. And do you know how many people I've said that to since? To so many students, like if they feel the calling, you don't need to know why. The why will be revealed to you. Now, he was all, one of the things I loved about Rabbi is he brought the best out in you, right? In everyone here. He was encouraging, complimentary. You know, one time, if I've ever felt insecure, he'd say, stop it. He goes, you know who you are, own it. And then you'll know true humility. When ordination came, I found out he invoked the 4 angels, and I didn't know he had a mystical experience. I believe the angels took me to him, and he invoked the angels. And I went up to him, I said, Rabbi, I painted them. He said, you have a picture? Bring it. So I brought it, and he said, bring them to the ordination. And I thought, well, what are you going to do with them? He said, I don't know yet. And he had the acolytes carry the paintings down the Cathedral of St. John the Divine and place them, the 4 corners, the 4 candelabras of light. And we did not plan that Gabriel would be here and Michael would be here. But when he invoked them, Michael to the right, they were exactly where they were supposed to be.
Oh.
And there were times over the years when I took his Kabbalah class or whatever, he would say, he would like really go into a spiritual fervor and say, they're here. Can you feel them? And they were. When he got sick, there were he'd almost died a few times. There was one time he got sick, Judy. I don't know if you remember when he had a blockage, an intestinal blockage. He called you, me, Gurmai. And I was honored. I mean, very few people he called, he would even know that he had this problem. And I knew why I was there. He said, I had to call you. I don't know why. I said, I know why. It was to bring the angels, the 4 angels. And Judy, I don't know if you remember this, but when he was dying, one of his students who I hardly knew called me up and said, I just feel like I'm supposed to bring you to Rabbi. And I said, that's really strange because I'm all dressed. I had an appointment with a couple about their wedding and they just rescheduled. I'm all ready. She said, I'm coming to pick you up. She brings me to Rebbe, and Judy was there by his side, always, always, always. And she's like, Judy, you also came to my show with of the angels. I don't know if you remember that at Union Theological Seminary, but you started saying to Rebbe, do you remember Susanna, the angel lady? And Rabbi was like glazed over. He was almost in a semi-coma at that time. And you kept saying, remember the angel lady? And he wasn't responding. So I leaned in close. I beamed him love. I had tears in my eyes and I was just beaming him love. And I can't even tell you the feeling of love that I felt from him. And I just felt this light in his eyes. And all of a sudden he started singing the invocation to the angels. And I thought, on his deathbed, he's singing. He's singing. Like he used to say, he envisioned his family going into the ovens singing. He used to vision his father. You remember him saying that, Rabbi Paris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the
singing,
time.
you can burn my body, but not my soul. You know, he was such a rabbi of joy. He used to love life so much. He always told the story that Rabbi Paris said that, you know, he went every night to the angels, to the court and said, you need me down there. It's a mess. Sent back. He used to call himself a gatherer of beautiful people. And you can see that by all the people here. He used to say, I'm a gatherer of beautiful people. And one of the things I most admire about Rabbi is everybody knows the story, you know, that he was, you know, he lost most of his family in the Holocaust, including his wife and young daughter. He used to say to me, if it were not for the Holocaust, I would hate Christians. And I used to say, oh, Rabbi, I don't believe that. Really? You? You know, knowing how much he loved everyone? He said, I know it to be true. They hated us. We hated them. We were segregated. He said, so, you know, if it wasn't for the Holocaust, he said, I wouldn't. He said, I lost my family. He said, but I have a new family, the world. The world. And he used to say, you know, everybody talks about the lost tribes of Israel. I know what happened to them. They're not lost. They made the entire world. Everybody's Jewish. What he meant was that everybody was his brothers and sisters. He changed my life, like he changed so many people's life. And I didn't want my life changed. And, you know, he was the one who, I remember when I gave my final paper thesis, I spoke out, he ran after me. And he said, Susanna, you have it. And I said, have what, Rabbi? He said, the ability to inspire. You should start a church. I looked at him, I said, Rabbi, God would have to come down like the burning bush for me to do that. But he was always seeing the best in people. He always brought out the best, and he saw the divine in every single person, and he allowed them to blossom. And of course, he formed the first interfaith seminary in the world, of which I graduated, Harvey Garrett, and it was revolutionary. Revolutionary. It was such a revolutionary concept. So today I think of Rebbe, and I think he's up there. By the way, Harvey, I had a vision of him with his arm around Candy, saying, don't worry, Harvey, I got her. She's with me. She's in good company.
Thank you, Susanna. Yeah, the timing is just remarkable. And he reminded me of two quick things I wanted to say. He used to, when you'd say to him, you know, when he said a word of wisdom, and you'd go, I know. He says, so why aren't you acting that way? He used to say. And the other one was, he used to talk about catching a cold. He says, I don't understand. Why do people catch colds? They should just drop them, you know, just fumble them. You know? So yeah, he had a tremendous sense of humor and a hold on life that was just remarkable. Anyway, I'll let other people speak.
Thank you.
Judy, you raised your hand.
Judy?
Yes, first I would like to share a song that Rabbi always asked me to sing at the ordinations, every ordination, and it's called I Promise You, My Child, if I may.
Yes.
I
Please.
promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain. I promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain. I promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain. B'shem kol hatankistim ufnehem hamuvakot, asher avru et kol ha'esh v'hashrichot. B'shem hayama'im asher pashtu al hanmalin, va'enehem pidot v'melach v'galim. Ani מבטיח לך, ילדה שלי קטנה, שזאת תהיה המלחמה האחרונה. אני מבטיח לך, ילדה שלי קטנה, שזאת תהיה המלחמה האחרונה. I promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain. I promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain. Lo yisa goy el goy cheret, lo yibadu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheret, lo yibadu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheret, lo yibadu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheret, lo yibadu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheret, lo yibadu od milchama. I promise you, my child, you'll never cry again. All wars will end. There will be peace and no more pain.
Beautiful, Judy. Thank you.
When
Beautiful.
Rabbi passed away, I was there, and he looked at me, and then he went to the other world. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I felt his energy going right through the crown of my head and through my body, and it never left me. And thank you for letting me share.
Beautiful, Judy. Thank you. Reverend Kathleen, beautiful Kathleen.
Good morning, everybody. Is my
You're
the
good.
volume good? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really been a joy to hear all the stories, Rabbi Paris. I mean, you could go on and on and on. And some of the stories I've heard, but it doesn't matter because I have new ears today. And I'm, you know, just really overwhelmed with all the joy that one person transmitted to so many. It's really remarkable, isn't it? When you think about it, this small little man from Hungary, who had the biggest heart in the world and no ego. You know, he didn't understand an ego. And that was, I think, one of the things that I was really attracted to. So I met Rabbi Gelberman and Judy and David at the Shivananda Yoga Ranch in Woodburn, New York, where I was a member. And I would just go there. It didn't matter who was speaking because I just went there for my personal sadhana. And whenever I had free time, a weekend, holiday, you know, I wasn't working, I would just go up. And one day in the early 90s, I look at the program and this Rabbi Gelberman is, okay, so I attended. And I'm listening to this man, and I had never met a Hasidic rabbi. And he's talking about how he is like Jesus. Now, I was raised Catholic, and until I was in college, that's all I really knew. I'd never met anyone outside of Catholicism. And I'm listening to this man talk about how he compared himself to Jesus. And he said that he sees life through Jesus's eyes. Of course, he said they both came from an Orthodox family. And he said, Jesus was a rebel and I'm a rebel. He said, Jesus wasn't accepted in a lot of the Orthodox circles because he didn't like the fact that inside the temple, people were conducting business instead of worshiping. And Rabbi Gelberman felt the same way. You know, some of these very big synagogues, they're focused in their meetings, they talk about finances. He said, that's not what I wanted. And he said in his early days, he had synagogues that were in storefronts and basements with congregations that were poor, and they focused on was God and worship. And he said when he moved over to New Jersey and got a job, I guess at Princeton, he said the conversation changed at the meetings. It was about finances, and he realized that's not what I want. I want people to focus on God and worship. And he went back, he left that and went back to Manhattan. And I guess I didn't know him in those days, but it was the little synagogue downtown on the Lower East Side. where I know many of you attended. And it's just, you know, it was just remarkable. I continued to attend a lot of his programs, and, you know, I'd go to his synagogue, and I would, anytime he was at the Shivananda ashram, I would be there. And it was just remarkable how this one person could live. He was living into faith. That was a word that was not common in the 80s and 90s, maybe in the later 90s, but he started using that word in the 70s, you know, and he and John Mundy and Swami Satchidananda, they would meet on Sunday afternoons. They would rent a church and have this dialogue between, you know, the different faith leaders. And he actually called that New Light Temple. And he would counsel interfaith families back in the 70s. You know, this was unheard of. A lot of people, if they had a mixed marriage, they either wouldn't raise the child with any faith tradition, or they'd pick one and forget about the other one. And Rabbi didn't see it that way. He said, let the child learn both. And Rabbi Paris, you've continued that idea and created an incredible congregation in Brookville. I mean, it's just amazing. I've seen that youth group, and it's just amazing. And your cantor and you know, Reverend Bill McBride. I mean, your whole synagogue is interfaith. It's just really remarkable. And I tell everybody about your synagogue. Anyone that especially if they come from a mixed marriage, you know, interfaith marriage, or they have children. In fact, yesterday the conversation came up, and you know, it's what you're doing is you're trailblazing. There are no other synagogues that I know of that do what you do. It's just remarkable how, you know, you were so inspired by Rabbi Gelberman that you have really given so much, and you've created this place where people could come that have mixed marriages. And really, I think their children are so divine because they have this idea of more than one. It's never instead of, always in addition to. They're being raised that way. And I, you know, attended your Rosh Hashanah service on Monday night, and I saw the children there. They were just so happy. And I've been to the synagogue that you have, and they're just so happy. And this is Rabbi Gelberman's teachings coming through you like a bright light, you know. And Judy, I mean, your stories, all these years, you know, that transmission when Rabbi Gelberman passed away. I mean, you were given, that's when you were given all those, that light and those, you know, the knowledge. You were both, you know, transmitters of that knowledge. And it's just really, I feel very blessed to know all of you, and that this experience came to me. You know, I just feel, of course, you know, yoga got me there, because if it wasn't for my interest in yoga, I wouldn't have been at Shivananda where Rabbi Gelberman showed up. And it is synchronicity, you know. It's just a remarkable experience, and I'm just really delighted and happy that I'm part of this whole thing. And I'm really glad that I attended the seminary. And this was another thing. I would hear Rabbi Gelberman talk about this new seminary. And at the time, I was the furthest, I was so far away from even thinking about a seminary. I was a high school teacher and a yoga teacher. And there was just, he would give out those pamphlets, and I kept looking at it, new seminary. And I looked at the affirmations, I looked at the principles, and I was like, those are my principles. There's something about this I'm drawn to. And as Susanna said, I didn't know why. I didn't know why I needed to do it. All I knew is that I was going to do that one day. And a few years later, I applied. And, you know, I guess the rest is kind of history. But I just, again, feel really blessed. And thank you, Guruji, for bringing us all together. It's just really an honor, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Elizabeth, would you like to share with us?
Oh, boy, you all said it all. You took the words right out of my mouth in so many ways. I can't really verbalize easily, but my heart is just so much into Rabbi Gelberman. I can't explain it. I just no words for it. He was like a puppy dog to me. Very helpful to me. He ordained me. And I remember after my ordination, I got a call for a wedding from a relative, friend of a relative's out of the clear blue sky. She called me and I just didn't know what the heavens she wanted. And she said, your sister gave me your number. Do you do weddings? And I said, yes, I just graduated from the new seminary, just signed the book at City Hall. She said, okay, do you want to do my wedding? And I said, sure. And so I hung up and then I called Rabbi Gelberman and I said, oh my God, I got my first wedding. Now what do I do? What do I say? I have no idea. And he said, all you have to do is just ask them if they choose to be married, that is their own free will and consent. Bless you, my child. Bless you, dear. I never forgot that. He really got things going. I used to enjoy his meetings, his Kabbalah, his Hebrew, and the harmonic convergence, and knowing him through all these years. And I first heard of Rabbi Gelberman through a woman that I met through a friend at a Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist meeting. And I was going through some hard times, boyfriend stuff. And so the woman said, call Rabbi Gelberman. I just see him in your vision that he'll be an active part of your life. And so I did, and it opened up a lot of things for me. Learned so much. The seminary was so helpful. That's where I met wonderful Tom Downs, who led me to become involved in animals and rescuing virtually as part of my ministry. And then also the sacred dance. I got into belly dancing in the late 1990s. I was ordained in 1987. Very shortly after my wonderful father died, bless his heart. And so that was a beautiful transition that led me to Rabbi Gelberman. And I called Rabbi Gelberman and I said, two of my Roman Catholic friends suggested that I join the new seminary and become an interfaith minister with you. And I never thought of myself as material to become an interfaith minister. And sometimes I still don't. But anyway, I was involved with astrology. And I called Rabbi Gelberman, and this goes even way back before the weddings and all that. I said, do you think that this is the right thing for me? Because he knew me through the meetings and Kabbalah classes that I went to. I'm sort of digressing a little bit, or regressing a little bit. And I said, do you think I'm right for this new seminary thing? And he said, even if only as an astrologer, you can do almost anything, you're covered as a minister. So I loved his practicality.
Very practical.
And I like that he was analytical, he was practical, he was grounded, as well as wise, and that beautiful combination. And that got the ball rolling. And these fabulous presentations, Tom Downs with the animals and the shamanic journeys, the other one with Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, and things I never even really heard of, really opened up so many doors for me in my ministry. I was very touched. I'll miss him. I miss him very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Shushita, are you there?
Rabbi, now we have over 200 people are watching from different countries.
Wow, great.
Reverend Natalia like to sing a song, and she like to bring a story. Thank you.
Good.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, where do I begin except with the greatest words of gratitude to here with you all this morning in commemoration of Rabbi's passing. I okay, the story goes back to the mid 80s. I came to know of the existence of the new seminary. I read all about it. I read all about Rabbi. I read all about what the new seminary was about. I was and have been a music teacher for the last now 40 years plus, and my interest in world religions came to me as a result of my having sung for every denomination under the sun. I mean, in my early years, I even sang in the Catskills when I was living in New York. I've been told that they're oftentimes referred to as the Jewish Alps. Yes, I remember going to choir rehearsals in Brooklyn under the direction of an Abraham Nadel, and I had an opportunity to sing for Judaism and to sing for every other denomination under the sun. So my interest in world religions came to me as a result of my work as a church musician. Now, I've known about Rabbi, and in 2007, my mother passed away, and my son Christian said to me, "Okay, Ma, now what do you want to do after you've been teaching 30 years now?" And I decided, okay, now is my opportunity. I will go to the new seminary. And I am still one of these people who had an opportunity to know Rabbi Gelberman. Cantor Judy, that's where I first met you because Rabbi Gelberman came to the new seminary and taught some elective classes. I remember one of my Rabbi Gelberman stories. I was sitting in an elective class with him, and there was a lady in the class who made this statement about and Jesus being the only begotten Son of God. And I remember Rabbi putting his finger in the air like this and saying, "Wait, wait just one moment. Rabbi Jesus, Master Jesus, yes, the Son of God. I am the Son of God. You are the daughter of God. You are the Son of God." And he went through the whole class. At the time that I passed through the new seminary, Rabbi Gelberman was doing Shabbat services once a month, some Presbyterian church on
86th Street.
Park Avenue.
Yeah.
Grand George was the pastor there. He was the person who spoke to us on Protestantism, and he was specialist in the Protestant Reformation. And Rabbi used to hold Shabbat services there once a month, which I attended on a monthly basis because when I went to the new seminary, I was still I went in person. I was one of the correspondents. So once a month for over a course of 2 years, I was at the new seminary, and there I heard Rabbi tell his story of his life. I remember the twinkle in that man's eye and how he could make you feel as though you were the only person standing before him. And it was a joy to be there at the new seminary those couple of years and to get to know him at a personal level and to experience his teaching, but most of all to experience his light and his okay, I'm getting a little long-winded here. So fast forward to many years later, I, by grace of God, find myself pursuing studies for a master's. I have a conversation with John Mundy. He leads me to Reverend Kathleen. And I find myself here at All Faith Seminary. And in the course of this past year, I've been trying to figure out, so what was going to be the emphasis of my master's? I knew it had to be something music. So now I'm going to, so back in March, I was doing a presentation as music director for All Faith Seminary, and I had just previously come across, I opened Rabbi's book. Can you all see this here? Because I don't have me in my camera. Kabbalah, as I see it, a book by our Rabbi Gelberman. and I opened to page 8, and there's this little section, Kabbalah on Broadway, and I read, there is a song from the Broadway musical Godspell that says, we pray daily for 3 things: to see thee more clearly, to love thee more dearly, to follow thee more nearly. This prayer is 100% Kabbalah. And then I think, oh my goodness gracious, there is a song that was recorded at a 30th anniversary concert that I'd given in 2004 that I used this song. I used this song so many times over in my teaching. The kids love it. The audience loves it. It is that connect with the divine within us, receive and give all in one. And so, Guruji, is it going to be possible to put that PowerPoint up with that little scene now? Is because I think it's finished. I think it's finished uploading, downloading, whichever which way, you know. I've learned a lot at All Faith Seminary in the world of technology. The septuagenarian has had to take a lot in over the last.
It is still circling.
Yeah. So and I would invite all of us to sing along with this.
It's not coming up. So maybe you go with the song, you know.
Okay. And while we wait for it to come up, I want to express from the bottom of my heart gratitude to you, Rabbi Paris, all of the staff at All Faith Seminary. It has been a joy and an absolute pleasure to be with you here this past year. And I'm telling you, if you want to keep me, I'm not leaving.
So one gigabyte, it may take a long time because my computer has so many files.
Okay.
So I'll recommend you go for the song.
Okay. Is there a possibility of my doing share screen and putting
You
it?
can. I'll make you as a co-host.
Okay. Because I think I could.
Yeah, you can do it. Try it.
Okay. So if I open it up here, do you see my screen at all yet? Do you see the screen?
No. Yeah, you
You
got to-
have to hit the blue share button after the green share.
But Rabbi Stewart is pinned, so I don't know if you will see it.
Rabbi Paris,
I mean,
Yes,
I also printed up, and if you want to lead, the prayer of remembrance from Rosh Hashanah.
nice.
And I thought that would just be perfect since this is the time of year. And we dedicated it to Rabbi Gelberman, but I was thinking also to include Candy, Harvey's wife, since she just passed.
Nice.
We could do that later.
Good. Good.
How's that? Do you see anything yet?
It's blank.
We have it.
You see a white screen.
We
White
see a white
screen.
screen now. Yeah,
Okay.
you have to now load it onto the,
How's that?
nope.
No.
Blank.
a whiteboard.
Still see just a whiteboard?
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to share a different screen.
We see your mouse
I see my
Mhm.
cursor.
Your mouse is moving around on the screen.
Yeah, you've selected
Your arrow.
whiteboard.
Yeah.
But it's not doing anything. You're clicking, but
No.
nothing's happening.
Right.
What do I click?
Maybe you have to select another window to share.
Yeah, take off screen share and then select the window for the PowerPoint that you want to see.
Right.
Take yourself off screen share, stop screen share.
Okay, take
Yeah.
myself off screen share.
Then go to screen share and select the PowerPoint that you want to show.
Or maybe another line.
How's that?
You got it.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
it
You got it.
is.
There
You got
go.
it now. Mhm. Day by day.
You can put slideshow if you want to click slideshow.
It's only one that I want to get at, so hang in there for just a second. I think
see
we're
it.
almost
You got it. There you go.
Can you see there? That?
Yes, yes.
Okay. right, inviting you all to sing along a favorite song of Rabbi's as we all share together in a prayer that is 100% Kabbalah. Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And-
Wow.
Would anybody else like to share?
Yes,
Stacy?
Judy?
Stacy?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you on this special time of remembrance, and it's really nice to see your faces, some of those I haven't seen in quite a while. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I first learned about the Interfaith Seminary when I was on a retreat in 2005 in Assisi. And one of the people that was in the retreat, it was a very small retreat, one of the people in the retreat was wearing this necklace that had the Star of David with a cross in it. And that intrigued me because I was already on the path of interfaith belief and understanding, uh, but never really knew what to do with it. And so he told me about the seminary, and so I came to the open house. I live in North Carolina, and I flew up for the open house, which was a pretty big step actually. And I will say, when I left Assisi, I asked for what I was to take away from that experience, and because I had spent the week with people walking where St. Francis had been walking those fields and in his hermitage and all, and I got the message, be love. So I came back, looked up the seminary, went to the open house, met Rabbi, and I knew that this was the place I was supposed to go. I spoke with Rabbi Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi because I had been involved in some Jewish renewal, and I had been thinking about going to that Aleph seminary, as a rabbinic pastor, but I wasn't quite sure. And so when I talked to Reb Zalman, of course, he and Rabbi Gelberman knew each other well and were blazing trails in the Jewish way that were pioneering at that time. And so he encouraged me to follow my heart, which of course Rabbi Gelberman would have done as well. And so I ended up at the seminary. And I felt at home with him. I felt like he was, my roots I have Hungarian roots. We bonded in a way that was very special. And I even saw him after I finished seminary. I graduated in 2006 and then in 2007 with my master's. What I want to say, besides the joy and the presence of Rabbi Gelberman in whatever he did, he exuded this presence. I had the privilege of getting to know Saima, Lakshmi Devi, and they were dear companions along the path, and participated in some of the work that they did together. And I remember when we I'm sorry. I remember when we had our ordination, and the rabbi prepped us beforehand. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And we were to say yes each time, to do the good and the beautiful. And I remember that a lot, as well as all of the other phrases about never instead of, always in addition to. And I share that with the interfaith couples that I work with people in my other work that involves interfaith support and encouragement. And my relationship with Rabbi Gelberman, even after seminary, I would come up and visit him periodically, and he holds a very special place in my heart for the ways in which he stood strong in his convictions about the fact that we are all children of God, regardless of where we come from. We are all in the we. And so it's a good to be here today and to remember along with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Judy?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Stuart, and thank you for Guruji for inviting me to this wonderful affair. I would like it to be the start of a good relationship, and lots of love to both of you. And that's really all I need to say at this time. I may have to go for another appointment, but I'd like to stay as much as I can.
Well, I before you go, Harvey, I just want to ask Judy to do something for us. You know that Rabbi you met Rabbi through yoga, as many people did. And Rabbi told a story that he went to an ashram one day and he heard a chant, he heard a melody, and he felt that it was divine. He felt that it was godly. It was just moved him so much. It was Om Namah Shivaya. And he brought it back with him from that ashram. And he realized that it was so perfect, it had to have come from God. And he had to couple it with Judaism. Rabbi was always about Judaism. He was about never instead of, always in addition to, but he said that he had 613 chains growing up, which are the commandments. He took off the chains, but he still had the commandments. And he recognized himself always as a Jewish person, as a teacher, as a rabbi, but also as a person of the world, as we know. So he took that beautiful chant, and he found words that he applied to that chant. And he taught us that faith and fear cannot coexist. And he said the greatest sin that we can have is to have fear, because if we have fear, we don't have faith. And he went to a beautiful song that Judy would sing for us at the end of each service, the Adon Olam. And the last stanza of the Adon Olam is where he found the coupling to go with Om Namah Shivaya, that wonderful chant, that wonderful melody. The last part of it goes, V'adoa kidruchi, ve'eti sham ve'oira, v'yimruchi geviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira. In his hand I deposit my soul. In her hand I deposit my soul. With my soul I deposit my body also. God is with me. I will not fear. Judy, before you depart, will you please lead us in Adonai li v'lo ira as a call and respond?
I'd be happy to. Adonai v'lo ira. Adonai v'lo ira.
And Judy, as you know, Rabbi just didn't sing things. Let me just say something. He put his entire being into it. So he would act out Adonai li v'lo ira. And can you show us what he would do? He was incredible. Go ahead.
Adonai li v'lo ira. You can follow. Adonai li v'lo ira. Adonai li v'lo ira. God is with me. I do not fear. Fear is a four-letter word, F-E-A-R. And if you take it apart, you get F for fear, F-E-A-R for
False
okay,
evidence
take over.
False evidence appearing real.
Yes.
Or fear is always in the
Yes.
future, he taught us. False expectation of an assumed reality.
Oh, false evidence. Yeah, false evidence.
That's
appearing
correct. So
real.
we want to make things real. The other thing I thought we would do, Judy, before you depart, I think this is really important. Susanna spoke about the angels. And if you will sing for us, Judy, the beautiful Shlomo Carlebach tune that Rabbi loved so much that he would sing at each of his services. B'Shem, B'Shem Adonai. Go.
B'Shem Hashem Elokei Yisrael Mimini Michael Umizmor Gabriel Umilfanai Uriel Umeachorai Raphael Ve'al Roshi Shafinat
And again, Rabbi wouldn't just sing it, but he would act it out. He would bring his entire being into it. So let's do it the way Rabbi did it, Judy. Okay? Go.
Yeah. Gavria, Bismoli, Luria, Milfanai, Uriel, Ve'alboshi, Ve'alboshi, Shechina, Shechina, almost.
Oh, it's beautiful, Judy. And he taught us that those angels are always with us wherever we go.
Yes.
Reverend Kathleen mentioned the synagogue that we've created on Long Island and the school that we have. It's a school that works with interfaith couples. I am actually the rabbi to the interfaith community of Long Island and New York. And we teach children in these interfaith families. We have a Christian teacher and a Jewish teacher in every classroom. And we teach them about inclusiveness. We teach them never instead of, always in addition to. Some years ago, there was a young boy, he's now in college. A lot of these kids are in college and beyond. They're still in touch with us. It's amazing. But they've really been affected by this wonderful experience that these parents have created for them that we kind of facilitate as clergy and as teachers. I said to him, I want to create songs for the young people. Which songs that we sing are the most important things for the young people to have, these young interfaith kids to have? And he said, number one is the Shema, Rabbi. They have to know the Shema. They have to know that there's one God and we're all the children of that one God and we're all family. And he sang it for me, the way we sing it, in Hebrew and in English. Listen, O Israel, listen, O humankind, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, which is Rabbi's direct translation. He said, the second song that you must sing is the angel song that Judy just sang for us. His name is Matthew. And I said, Matthew, why the angel song? He said, Rabbi, we're never alone. That song teaches us that the angels are always with us. And sometimes when you're an interfaith person like I am, it's very lonely because people don't understand you and sometimes you don't feel accepted by them, but it doesn't matter because the angels are always with us and you must teach that song. And it's because of Rabbi Gelberman that all of this knowledge came to me and through Judy as well, and the beauty of the music, that I can pass it on as we can pass it on, each of us, to those who we encounter. There's a tradition in Judaism called Tikkun Olam, which is to heal the world. And Rabbi and I used to talk often about Tikkun Olam. And we agree that it's really not possible to heal the world. Kabbalistically, this is a central teaching of Isaac Luria, a great Kabbalist of the 14th century in Tzfat. But we know, even though we can't really heal the world, we can heal one person at a time. And as we heal one person at a time in an individual relationship, the world is actually healed. It spreads. He used to talk to me, and I talk about this often when I teach. He would talk to me about a pond that is absolutely quiet, and you throw a stone in the middle of the pond, and what happens? A wave is created to the shoreline, and then what happens? That wave comes back. And he said, that's what we are. That's how we teach. That's what we're about. When I was about to be ordained, I said to him, Rabbi, who will I teach? Rabbi means teacher. And he said to me, they will find you. And all I had to do was stay open. And they found me. And boy, am I lucky to be found. My life is extraordinarily abundant because of the young people, because of the people that touch me. I got a call after Rosh Hashanah. We had about a couple hundred people on our Zoom Rosh Hashanah the other day, and I got a call from one of the congregants who called me. His name is Jesse Goldstein, and he said, Rabbi Stewart, I have to let you know something. It's so clear to me now. I saw this clearly. The congregation needs you, and you need the congregation. Think about it. That's what we're about, each of us. That's how we continue the work of Rabbi Gelberman. It's 25 of 12. I want to tell, does anybody else want to share? Harvey?
I put onto the chat a song that came to me last week that I haven't thought of in many, many, many years, and I understand now why it came to me. It's a song that traditionally is sung, and I sang it at the age of 5 in a synagogue. It's a song that's sung after the blowing of the shofar, and I'd like to sing that now, and I'd like you to find it on the chat and sing it along with me. But of course, you have to go mute if you do that, because it'll be a bedlam otherwise.
Right.
And just everybody close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you've heard the sound of the shofar. Areshes efosenu Yerav lefonecho, Yerav lefonecho. Areshes efosenu, come on you, Yerav lefonecho. Neram benisa, mevinu mazin, ma bitu makshiv, lekol tekio senu, uskapel berachmim uvrotson, seder, Malchu Yosenu, Skabel berachmim uvrotzon, seder, Malchu Yosenu.
You know, it's amazing that things that touch us when we're very young stay with us. I was first smitten by Judaism when I was 6 years old. And went to synagogue and heard the music, and that's what got me. Guruji, do you have your conch nearby?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to do something. We at this season of the year, we sound the shofar. We have 3 sounds: Tkiah, which is Shvarim, which is and then we have Teruah, which is and then we have Tkiah Gedolah, which is as long as you can do it the way you would do the conch. So I would like to imagine that we're in Jerusalem together. Rabbi is with us. We're standing at the Kotel. We're standing at the Wailing Wall, all of us together. We've finished our prayers. On Rosh Hashanah, we know that the gates of heaven are open, and God is waiting for us to speak with him or her. And people who we have harmed this past year are waiting for us to make amends. So if I've hurt any of you with my words, my thoughts, my deeds, and my actions, or my thoughts, I ask for your forgiveness, which is what we do on the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And then Rabbi taught us on Yom Kippur, the high priest goes into the Holy of Holies, the only one allowed in. And he goes down completely on his hands and knees and then face down before God. And he presents the sins of all the people. And he's waiting for the word to come from God. And Rabbi would actually act this out in our synagogue. And he would say, I heard it. Salachti. All is forgiven. Salachti. Remember, Judy? Salachti. All is forgiven.
Oh, yes.
And we would hear the sound of the shofar. So Guruji, please. Beautiful. Did you know that you were Jewish in a past life? Remember what I told you now? Rabbi and Swami Satchidananda believed they were brothers and they had each other's past lives. You and I are brothers, and I think we've had each other's past lives. You have to, okay?
Rabbi, we have one of the oldest synagogue in my hometown. My dad used to be part of that group.
Beautiful.
And Larry and Tamara is waiting to speak to.
Okay, Larry, Tamara.
Okay, I
Mara.
didn't really have a direct personal relationship with Rabbi, but I knew him for many years. I did get involved through Swami Satchidananda at first because I used to go to the Integral Yoga Institute. And every year at St. John the Divine, they would have the Swami and the Rabbi talks. And it was there that they used to say, in a past life, you were the Rabbi and I was the Swami. And they used to repeat that every year. And I think they did it for 13 years running. And then they said, okay, now we're bar mitzvah. And then they had a couple more meetings that are actually on YouTube. You can look them up, where they reunited at Yogaville at Swami Satchidananda's ashram. And they had a dialogue there and reminiscing and talking in a similar way to those talks. So if anybody wants to see them together, you can go to YouTube and look up Rabbi.
Video to play, the last part. I have.
I'm sorry?
I have the video to play, the last part.
Yes. Yes. The other thing my most personal memory of Rabbi Gelberman is really what he inspired in me. One of the High Holy Day services, when we read the Shema and then the text that comes after it about posting it on the doorposts of your home and remembering it as you walk by the way and so on and so forth. I suddenly got that these were instructions for mantra repetition. And it's the same thing that's told to people when they're given a mantra. You should repeat it when you walk around. You should repeat it when you're waiting. You should say it when you get up, say it when you go to sleep. And the Shema is a mantra. And I wrote a piece about that. This was way before seminary, and it was one of the first papers that I gave in when I did join the seminary. And I was inspired to join in the 2011 semester when I went to Rabbi Paris's High Holy Day service, and he did a Torah reading in English, but to the melody that the Hebrew would have been chanted in. And I don't know why, but it touched me very deeply. And when I heard that, I felt like I was experiencing what it was like to understand it in Hebrew because of the way the melody was presented. And what I didn't know at the time is that Rabbi was on his deathbed already at that point, and Rabbi Paris had just come from being with him. And so some of that energy just came through and it moved me. And at that moment, I said, I have to join the seminary. And I mean, I had known about it for years, but it wasn't time. So then I became a minister in 2011 after hearing that reading. And I've been with them ever since. So here we are.
Thank you, Larry. You're a very good man, and you're very, very, very dear to us in All Faith Seminary International. Thanks to you, the people around the country, around the world can participate with us in our teachings. You are a dear, dear friend. And Rabbi, I'll tell you this on his behalf, he loves you very much. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There's one other thing I just want to mention because it just happened the other day. I had written a piece, and this was the only thing in my life that I had written that I ever actually showed to Rabbi. And it was a piece that was supposed to be an insert in the Haggadah that we read at the Seder on Passover, and explaining how the journey of the Hebrews from slavery to freedom was a metaphor for the spiritual journey and how we all journey from bondage to liberation. And I knew I had written it and it disappeared. I haven't seen it for many, many years. And just the other day, we were doing some cleanup. We had a box of papers that we had moved here. We moved to this house 3 years ago. And somehow in the bottom of that box, separated from the Haggadah, was this original typewritten piece that I had written that I remember Rabbi reading and saying, that's very good. You should read it before the Seder. So just the other day.
Well, I've prepared a Haggadah for our community, and I would be honored if you would allow me to include that piece in our Haggadah if you'll send it to me, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Please.
scan it in. It was written on an old electric typewriter originally, and I may have to fix some of the letters.
That's okay.
But I'm gonna do that, and then I'll email it to you.
And I will share it with the congregation that I serve. Beautiful. Susanna, you said you had the piece from our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur reader that we prepared. Would you like to share it with us? I think you said it was Remembrance.
Yes. So it's interesting because this, Rosh Hashanah was just a few days ago. And this is said, the prayer of remembrance for all those who have passed. So I had written it just for Rabbi, but I think we should include Candy Newman in this and everyone else, of course, that was said. So I'm going to read the first line, and then I'm going to go like this. And I ask everybody when I go like this to say, we remember them. So now we say, we remember them. We remember Rabbi Joseph Gelberman. We remember Candy Newman. So everyone go with.
Excuse me, Garcia. Candy Garcia.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Candy Garcia. So everyone go within and feel Rebbe's spirit. I feel him so often. Rabbi Paris, he's so brilliantly through you, through Judy, through all of us, through Kathleen. I mean, just feel him. Give him a spiritual hug. Feel his hand in your hand. And let's also call forth Candy Garcia. Imagine them holding hands, holding our hands with all the great saints of light, all the founders of all the different religions, all the great thinkers, all the light beings. So at the rising of the sun and it's going down, we remember
them.
We remember them. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of the summer, we remember them. Please say, remember them. At the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they shall live too, for they are now a part of us, and we remember them.
We remember them.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember
them.
When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember
them.
When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember
them.
As long as we live, they too shall live, for they are a part of us. And
we remember
them. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful.
For Rebbe, for Candy, and for all those on the other side who we miss.
Good.
They're here.
Good. I think we'll conclude shortly. I want to tell just a few more anecdotal stories and a vision that I personally had. When I first met Rabbi Gelberman, I was one of those people who wrote everything down and read, especially when I was going to speak in front of a group of people. And each time he would ask me to give a sermon on our Friday night services, and we of course we were studying together, so we found topics and I would write about them. And he said, be brief. Brief is better because two reasons. One, they'll remember what you said and they'll invite you back, which is very valid. And create a message. And I did that. And I always came with a piece of paper. He'd call on me to deliver the sermon. I'd take out the piece of paper, put it down. And he didn't like that I did that. And he told me that he didn't want me to read. He wanted me to be spontaneous. So one day I said to him, how do you do that? he said, you close your eyes and you breathe and you listen. And then you speak what you hear, and that's God. I said, I don't know if I can do it. And the next time I came to do a sermon, I came with my piece of paper. He took the piece of paper and he ripped it up. And he said, close your eyes and breathe and deliver the sermon. And I did. And I've been meditating for years. And it was a form of a meditation before speaking. But I never forgot it. And I do it now. Most of everything I do these days is spontaneous. I don't use notes at all anymore. But it's also just closing my eyes and listening. And what I hear, I speak. And sometimes I close my eyes and I see things. And I had a vision the day the rabbi passed. I may cry, forgive me, but this was very real to me. My vision was this. Rabbi and I used to talk all the time about Ad Meva Esidim, until 120. He believed that he had a contract with God to live until 120. He really believed it. And many of you know that he had various things in his life. He had cancer for many years, never talked about it. He had other issues physically, never talked about them, always recovered, and really believed he was going to live to 120. He believed he had this contract with God. And on Rosh Hashanah day, before I went to synagogue to conduct, Rabbi was in a coma. He had been in a coma for a number of weeks. He was in hospice. He should not have been there that long, by the way. He hung on. I think he spent 3 weeks in hospice, if I'm not mistaken, right, Judy?
Yes.
Well, Chaim, it's time. And Rabbi Gelberman said, but you promised me 120. And God said, I can't give you 120, Chaim, your body is giving out. And Rabbi said, so give me 100. This is like when he went into the coma, right in the beginning. This is how I saw this. And God said, I can't give you 100. Your body really can't support you for 2 more years. And Rabbi said, then give me Rosh Hashanah. And God said, okay. So now I go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah day with Judy and with Roger, and we do a beautiful Rosh Hashanah service. I'm not sure if you were there, Judy. You may have stayed with Rabbi. Did you come to service?
I stayed with Rabbi.
You stayed with Rabbi. You and Sapali were with Rabbi all the time. God bless you both. And so I did the service with Roger. And then after the service, I said to my beautiful wife, Enid, we have to stop by the house because I need to do the service again for Rebbe. And we went to the house and I stood at the foot of the bed. People stood around and I did the complete Rosh Hashanah service. And for the first time, and I was with him every day, for the first time ever, as I was leaving, I left instructions on what was to happen should he pass. I never did that before. Feet to the door, there are certain ritual things that we do. And I left those instructions and I left and I got to my house and the phone rang in my car that Rabbi had passed. And I turned around and went back. Believe it or not, I got lost. I didn't want it to be over. So when I got off the Triborough Bridge, I went to the Bronx. I didn't go to Manhattan. It took me a little while to get to the house. We did everything we had to do. Judy and Sapali were so loyal and so beautiful and dutiful. They had stayed with Rabbi the entire time until I got there. And then I made the calls that had to be made. I said the prayers that had to be said, accompanied Rabbi down to the special vehicle that took him to the funeral parlor, and then came upstairs. And here's the miracle. Judy and Sapali had been with Rabbi the entire time. As you heard Judy say, Rabbi actually woke up at the end. Sapali was sitting there. We call her Sapalika. She was Judy's very, very close friend who she lent to Rabbi as a caregiver. God bless you, Judy. She was an absolute gift. And she was shaking. And she was sitting alone at the side of Rabbi's bed. And I went to her and I said, Sapalika, I held her and she was really shaking. She was shivering. And I said, tell me, talk to me. She said, Rabbi Stewart, we were sitting with Rabbi Gelberman And he suddenly sat up. He opened his eyes. He smiled. He put his head down and he closed his eyes and he took his last breath. And I said, so Polly, what do you think happened? She said, Rabbi Stewart, Rabbi Gelberman saw God. I said, so Polly, you could be right. Rabbi saw God and went with God, and she became calm. And I have to tell you that in the meditation that I had when Rabbi said, at least Rosh Hashanah and God agreed, the last part of my meditation and vision was that God came, that Rabbi saw God, Rabbi took the kiss from God, and Rabbi went on Rosh Hashanah. And it's miraculous. That's what happened. September 9th, 2010 was the first day of Rosh Hashanah. He heard the entire service and he could go. And that's what he was made of. That's what he was about. He would negotiate with God all the time for us. Talk to God all the time for us. You know, to heal us, to bless us, to love us, and Judy was with him almost all the time. And Judy knows this. He was up and asking God's blessings. And in the end, he received the greatest blessing of all. God came to him and he saw, and he passed peacefully, joyfully, and lovingly. And I believe that to be true. So he said to Judy, especially many times, if you cry, I am going to reach out of my coffin and I'm going to pull you in with me. You are to celebrate my life. You are not to have tears. You are to celebrate my life. And that's what we've done today. We've celebrated the life of this extraordinary man who came to us from Hungary at a very young age to save his family. They got lost in the camps. He stayed. Thank God he stayed and chose life. He taught me, often we talked about this in Torah, the last thing that Moses says to us before he goes to the top of the mountain and passes. He said, I've given you all of this law and life and joy. Choose life. Choose God. Uvachata b'chayim. And Rabbi believed it. Every single day, he chose life. He was a man of such energy and such power and such passion and such humility and such gentleness and such kindness. It got all over us. And I encourage each of us to pick that up every day and do what he taught us, to turn on our light each morning. Look in the mirror when you're dressed. Notice the light. Do what he did. Not bad. And then go out to the world and have an effect on one human being at a time. And we will have tikkun olam. And the last thing I'd like to say is to my beautiful brother, Guruji, you had a vision for this day. And I am so grateful you had that vision. And we are all grateful that you invited us to join you on this journey into Rabbi Gelberman's life and into the future as Rabbi Gelberman's students and now teachers. God bless you all. Amen. Namaste.
Bless you. Namaste.
Thank you, Rabbi, being our guest of honor and the moderator and the mentor for today and forever. And Judima and Reverend Susanna, Reverend Kathleen, Stacy Grove, Isabel, another person from URI, Robert, Harvey, Reverend Natalia, Gabriel, and Levi, and other people, including Peace Lights. And now is over 350 people are watching from abroad. And I know it's going to grow every single minute. So actually, we had a beautiful service. And to thank everyone. I'm going to put one of the video from the Integral Yoga Institute. That is like a 10 minutes, 16 minutes. So those who are able to watch, you can watch and continue the process. Those who have
And Guruji, can we ask everyone, when this is over, to go to Guruji's, he will post the video, to share it on your social media So it gets out in the world even more,
Correct.
right?
Can you email us that link?
Yeah. Once I put it on the YouTube, I can send it to you.
Okay.
Or those who go to the Facebook, already it is at the World Yoga Community page, is live. Then September 14 we'll have a Peace Festival or annual program. And so many peace events are going on in New York City physically and the Zoom events. And October 4th we'll have our Guru Festival, that is my birthday too. We'll have an online program and we'll have an evening gathering in an Indian restaurant. So that is update. The rest will, yes.
May I share one thing?
Yeah.
Rabbi Paris, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to say that on the day that Rabbi's last day, I had left the Rosh Hashanah service and gone out for the afternoon, and then I met with a small group for a Torah meditation. And in the Torah meditation, it was about the time that Rabbi passed. I saw him leave,
Mhm.
and I knew before I knew, and I experienced that with Reb Zalman when he passed. And what I want to say is that the physical body that holds our spirit, that when that no longer serves us, the spirit continues on and goes out to all of us in ways that it does not have the capacity to do. And that's what I experienced that day and with others that I spoke with. So I am so grateful for the light that shone through him and continues to shine this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Beautiful.
I'm
Guruji.
Yeah, I'm going to play the video.
Is we'd like to ask if you would each speak about what you consider to be the most important practice or teaching in your tradition. So Gurudev, may we ask you, what do you consider the most important practice and teaching in yoga?
The essential teaching and the goal of yoga is to make the mind calm. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha, says the Raja Yoga. The beginning definition for yoga. It means whatever the waves that are created in the chitta, the mind, total mind, calm it down, balance it. Another definition called samatvam yoga uchyate. That means balance, equanimity is yoga. For that, of course, you cannot directly handle the mind. So you have to go through the body and the senses and breathe.
As a matter of fact, I remember many of the occasions, the Swami and the Rabbi in New York. I was the first speaker, and then Gurudev would follow and would say, now that you learned what yoga is about, I'll tell you about Judaism. Interestingly enough, that the same question you will find in the Talmud. The rabbis were discussing it. What is the most important teaching in the Bible, in Judaism? One of them said, well, the Shema, which we recited last night. Listen, O Israel, listen, O humankind, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And that is the whole concept of the interfaith, that we are all brothers and sisters. And therefore, is it possible that's why we don't like each other? Because but the idea being we should care because we have the same father and the same mother, Adonai and Shekhinah, the feminine part of God. So they said that is the most important part. And the word echod, for those of you who know some Hebrew, describes the nature of God. There are three letters in that word, the Aleph and the Chet and the Daled. The Aleph stands that God is loving under all conditions. The Chet stands he's chesed, full of compassion. No matter how much we have sinned, he's ready to forgive if we are ready to change our lifestyle. And the Dalet stands for the Veikut. He's cleaving unto us. This is a new concept in the Kabbalah. It was all there, but we didn't see it. Not only are we cleaving to God, and we have learned that in the Sunday school and the Hebrew school, that there's nothing we can do without God, but the new idea is there's nothing God can do without us, because we are all partners with God. The Hebrew word is Shutfei Elohim. What a beautiful title. I would like to put it on my card. Partner with God. Not beautiful? That's my business. Partner with God. And you are a partner too. We're all partners. Partners with God. And then they found some other passages. I think they finally agreed that the most important part is actually that simple, beautiful sentence. It says, "Ve'ahavta lere'echa kamocha," to love thy neighbor as thyself. I tell you the truth. The reason I find this difficult, because I have no difficulty to love all the Indians, all the Africans. They're far away, but I have difficulty with my neighbor. In the same floor, we're just together. So when you manage to love your neighbor, then you're a lover. And the emphasis is on the word kamocha, as thyself, meaning begin with yourself, accept yourself, rejoice within yourself, realize the God, the Shekhinah within yourself. Only then are you able to love your neighbor or all the others of God's children. So the Shema is very important. The simple voice means to listen. We don't know how to listen. You find two people who argue with each other, you know immediately they're not listening to each other. Very often between husbands and wives, or between parents and children. Most of all, as parents, we don't listen to our children. And all you need is one moment, and the child realizes nobody's listening to me. Let me tell you a cute little story, a true story. Picture this family having dinner, and the telephone rings. And the child is about 30 years old, answers the telephone. The father said, "Who is it?" And she said, "The rabbi." Now, the man knows if the rabbi calls, he probably wants some money for the congregation. So he said, "Tell him I'm not home." All right? From that moment on, the child doesn't believe anything that the father says. It's a little thing we're not aware of it. How often we hear very often mothers say, "I'll kill you if you do this again." Of course she's not going to kill. But the child's mind is like the internet. It has been registered. My mother wants to kill me, and now it will cost them thousands of dollars in psychiatry to get it off. Speaking about it, are you ready for a little story? Story is told about these mothers who are playing canasta, and they're all very proud of their children. So one of them said, these are Jewish mothers, by the way. And one of them said, "My son, the doctor, He has a beautiful office on Park Avenue, very, very successful. But every Friday before Shabbat, he calls me up and wish me Shabbat Shalom. I love you, mother. Isn't that beautiful? The other one said, my son is a lawyer. He lives in California. He too calls me every week. And not on Friday. He's not very religious, you know. But he calls me every week to find out how I am, and we talk to each other. And the other lady is a little bit quiet. And finally she said, well, my son has some problems, and he goes to a psychiatrist every day. But who do you think he's talking about? Me. So I would say in modern terms, the most important part that would be the Bible, that's what the word Shema means. Listen. We are not listening. We are not listening to each other. We are not listening to the inner, still, small voice which is constantly telling us, you are my partner, you're not living up to the bargain, and the business of life will go bankrupt. That's what's happening. Whenever we complain, and if you're really to God or about God, if you listen, God will tell you, where were you? I was ready. You didn't help me. We have to do this together. So the Shema would be the most important part, and then the other one, to love thy neighbor as thyself.
I think that's the reason God created one mouth and 2 ears. And even the mouth is shut up, well closed. So talk less, ready to listen always. Ears are never closed. So God has a purpose in making the mouth shut like that. Shut up and listen. That's what once says Arunagiri went to God. God, I've been doing all kinds of prayers, rituals, worship you, talk about you a lot. I still didn't get the real stuff. What should I do? God said, Summa iru sollara. Keep quiet, shut your mouth. It's in the verse. He himself says that when I approached God, this is what God told me. Summa iru, keep quiet. Sollara, shut your mouth. Don't talk. So when we stop talking, as Rabbi says, we have the opportunity to listen more. The God talks always, but our noise is too much. We don't hear that. So if you calm your mind and shut up your activities, you can actually feel and hear God talking to you. And that
So that was a 16 minutes video. We made it to 5 minutes.
Guruji, God bless you, my brother. Thank you, everybody. Go with God.
Thank you
Remember
for
our
this
dear Rebbe.
miraculous service.
God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Thank you.
God bless you, Stuart.
God bless you,
And
Judy.
Stuart, thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
No,
And everyone else.
Thank you, Gurji. Thank you, everybody. It was beautiful.
Harvey,
This was a beautiful, beautiful
Thank
day.
you.
Larry, Tamar, all of you, Elizabeth, God bless each and every one of you. And may it be a very good and sweet year.
here, here. Amen.
Amen.
Look, thank you. Thank you all.
And as the
Thank
rabbi
you
used to
all. Good
say,
to see
and
everybody.
so
Judy,
it
we should have
is.
holy
And
schmoozes.
so it is.
Thank you,
So
Guruji.
Judy,
Thank you.
Judy Steele, we should have more of your holy schmoozes on Zoom.
Yeah. Well,
That
we
would
should
be
do that.
wonderful.
Good to see you, Judy.
Wonderful
Yeah.
to see you all. Sorry, some of the other people weren't here that I would expect. Where is Pat DiGregoria? I know she was very close to Rabbi.
Pat.
Oh,
Oh, I would have loved to have seen Pat.
Kathy
Yeah.
is getting married soon.
Who?
She's
Pat-
getting married soon.
Who, Pat DiGregoria?
She's in Arizona.
But she,
Really?
well, she
Yeah.
could have been on the call,
Oh, mhm.
you
I
know?
don't. Hi,
I know
Cantor
she-
Judy.
Yeah.
Good to see
I
you. Hi,
didn't
Guruji.
say this, but I'm recently been made the host of the meetup Death Cafe New York City. So if anybody wants to come on Death Cafe New York City, the next one will be September 22nd on Meetup.
Death,
Okay. Death
A-T-A.
Cafe, DEATH,
Ah.
yes, Death Cafe, New York City. Yep,
Next,
and it's
next,
5 p.m. on the 22nd. Thank you.
next
Thank you
meeting,
all.
I would like to sing.
I have to leave,
Return.
everybody.
Oh,
Lashana Tova, everybody.
Yeah, I love you
Rabbi,
all.
you did a great job.
God bless you all.
Larry,
Everybody.
Kamal, good
everybody.
to see you.
Happy
Bye,
and healthy New
everybody.
Year.
everybody.
Rabbi,
Shana Tova.
Lashana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Bye-bye.
Remy, I have an event at 12:30.
Sorry?
I have an event at 12:30.
So is it for everybody or?
Now, this is, we are going to close it.
Oh, okay.
Suppose to finish by 12.
thank you all very, very much
All
for a
right.
very moving,
Anyway,
Bye-bye.
we have event
session.
on September 14. Please join.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Susanna.
Bye.
Thank you, Guruji.
You. All right, blessings. Thank you again, all of you.
Thank you, Sabah. Robert.
Yeah, bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Guruji. You did a great job. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Guruji. I love.